work with me.
We're rolling.
Whoa, nice.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Charter Commission for the town of Harwich. It's July 17th, 2025. And present are Herb Bell, Linda Sabula, John Shorey, Paul Doan, Sandy Hall, and Lou Urbano. And I'm announcing that because we now have she's going to be watching the minutes and transcribing our minutes, so she asked if I could make sure that who is here. So, we have called to order. You were sent the minutes of July 10th meeting and the public hearing of June 25th, which never got done.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of July 10th and the hearing of June 25th meeting minutes as submitted.
Second.
Second, thank Paul. Any changes, corrections?
But I have a comment.
Of course.
I don't know how the rest of you see these minutes, but I think they're well done. I think they do not too little and not too much.
Agreed.
So I think we're off to a good start with those.
Yeah,
I just want Judy to know that.
so yes, I think they're
Yeah.
not too much, they're not too, it's sort of like, baby bear, just right.
Nice, happy, medium.
Precise and to the point.
Yeah,
Yes, I
and
did
just,
think so.
and very definitely carries the sense of the discussion, which I think is important.
So I think we have the keeper there.
You do.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that was 6-0. Yes,
I spoke with Judy again today on payment policies, and she had sent, which I had asked her to do, a note into payroll. They were supposed to get back to her. I asked her today if they had. They hadn't. So she's going to send another note today, which she did, to ask them to remind them about it. And I will stop in at the town hall tomorrow to follow up in person.
that would be great, because I know that as a part-time person,
Yes, no, it's important.
she cannot put in more than 17 hours a week. So that is why she will have a weekly timesheet for us, just like
Okay.
she has for other committees. So
Look, I'll
it
stop in.
behooves us to get this moving, but thank you.
Don't quite know who to speak to. We have no finance department. I think Megan Green is gone.
Yes, she has, to Chatham.
Yeah, did you have it? So,
Megan's left?
Yes, she has.
Oh, gosh.
so there's no one in that office. Literally, there's no one in that
Well, what
office.
about speaking to the town accountant?
Yeah, well, I'll find somebody, yeah.
And the treasurer
Yeah,
actually
I'll
handles
speak to,
payroll.
is it Crystal?
Crystal.
Yeah, yeah, I'll find somebody, at least.
Okay.
Hope.
Probably find a lot of people would take it.
But it's Friday, so I have to get in.
Oh, yeah.
Get in early. Okay, I sent around a letter that we received from the Commonwealth, or it was sent to Emily Mitchell, care of Emily Mitchell, town clerk, giving us that we have to have a preliminary report filed by September 21st, 2026, and that the final report has to be on or before November 21st, 2026. So we just have, it was just giving us the deadlines that we have to work with.
Mhm.
But just to make sure that everybody had that we're actually working towards deadlines. Continuing business, I'll just state that the request of the town agency for thoughts on the charter has gone out. Natasha, once again, great. So that letter that we had crafted, got an all points bulletin out. So we'll see if anything comes of that.
I did get a notice from the chair of the capital outlay that thoughts and so forth, so,
Yeah, I went to
She's
all
at
the chairs,
least,
all the chairs and the select board,
yeah.
so hopefully.
My wife got hers for the energy
Yep,
committee.
so that, it did go out. I mean, it was great because I certainly don't know the emails for all these people. And it's very nice that
Well,
our.
we know all yours.
Yeah, we know, we know
I
now.
I couldn't believe that.
You know now.
Let's see, who
I
does
was-
she know that I know? Okay.
There was only 3.
Really?
I was ready to scream on that one, yes, ready to scream. So that is done. I also, just so for continuing business, so that y'all know, I sent a letter to Sarah Eaton, who is our IT person.
Oh.
And I asked to have on the Charter Commission page, if we could have the videos done, added, and also that on the town website, you can sign up for notifications from various committees. The Charter Commission is not in that list, so it is now. So
And that notification goes out to
Anybody
general
who
public.
asks for it.
anybody who asks, you can sign, you go on the town website and you can sign up for minutes and agendas for various committees. But the Charter Commission had not been put in there, and I wanted to make sure it was.
Gotcha.
So we kind of getting the nits and lights put together.
Mhm.
Consultant sent that note out to the two companies, MRI and Collins, Edward Kennedy, that Collins Group, that's a long name. So that went out, and we'll see what comes back of that. Still waiting, in case you had,
Well, I sent you the Charles Sumner,
you sent me
right?
Charlie Summers, yes.
You're sending one to him,
Yep.
right? Because he seemed quite interested.
Hmm.
I had some difficulty getting a hold of the other two that I guess were part of the whatever bid or the interest. One was Rick White, who was the former town administrator in Dennis. He called me back just late this afternoon. It was a very bad connection, but I got the details for you here. Yeah, he's interested. He was the town administrator for Lexington for 20 years, and then about 8 years in Dennis. He works with a fellow that set up a consulting business, Tom
Tom
Brew.
Brew.
Yeah.
He was in front of the Board of Selectmen a week ago
Yes.
to talk
he's-
about
he's-
being their consultant.
Right.
So you might
Yes.
wanna watch that tape, because it was very
Well, he
interesting.
said that
Yeah.
he's applied sort of, or at least submitted an interest in that assisting the town in that.
The only
He
one
said-
that did.
If he were to get that position, then he has people within his organization. It's sort of the same kind of thing like Bernie Lidge, where he has associates that kind of aren't
Mhm.
full-time, but they get called in to do different roles depending upon their background and the interest of the client. But they're the same type of situation. It's, executive searches, interim town manager roles, as well as solving municipal problems that require consultant services. So the firm is called Grew, G-R-O-U-X, Grew White. I got his phone number. I had trouble getting his phone number at first, and so I contacted my contact at Mass Municipal Association. It was a very effective, informed kind of person up there. And she gave me, well, actually Bernie gave me the number for Rick White. I called him, but I didn't hear back from him. Then I called Denise Baker at Mass Municipal to try to find about Bill Hinchy, who was the other name that was in the motion that was made initially. I called Denise to see if she had a contact number for Bill Hinchy. Her response to me was, I told her that we had got in touch with Charlie Sumner, and he seemed quite interested, and I enjoyed talking with him. He's kind of an interesting guy. Denise said Charlie Sumner would be the best. He's still involved in local government. He's great to work with, she said. She didn't have information for Rick White, but hopefully, she said he would call you back. And she didn't have any information on Bill Hinchy, but she did mention that he's been retired for some time and he's not active with the Management Association, which is the group of affiliated president, former town administrators, managers, and so forth, that works with the Bath Municipal Association. As it turned, so I called Rick's number again, just in case he had either forgotten that I had called or whatever, and he called me back late this afternoon, said he was interested. He's, as Sandy mentioned, is involved applying for the assistance on the hiring of the town administrator here already. He said that were he to proceed with that, he would still be interested in helping. He has a website, you can check it out, GROUX, G-R-O-U-X -White Consulting. They have worked for Dennis, Harwich, Provincetown, Wellfleet, and Yarmouth on the Cape, according to their website. I didn't really get to talk to them very long because it was a pretty bad connection. I just got his address, and you have that information now. But I thought it was kind of interesting that Denise offered that Charlie Sumner is a kind of a class guy, seemed less familiar with Rick White, and basically said, don't bother with Bill Hinchey.
Okay.
So anyway, I think that's, if you haven't sent, I think I told you Charlie was gonna be away this week, but
He'll be back
wanted to
soon,
make
yep.
sure there was time for him to get a response back to us. And I told Rick that we'd get a item off to him. I don't know if you're emailing it or mailing it.
I am
Email,
emailing the letter.
Okay. So anyway, that's
Great.
what I have.
Could you hand it?
Well, just a thought, we now seem to have a pretty likely acting town administrator in place who also has a lot of, I'm sure, connections and people he knows, and maybe we could ask him if he had any thoughts, any further thoughts on people that we could tap.
Well, I don't think I'm not sure they've actually hired him at this point. I think they're in the negotiation stage.
Well, subject to negotiation, but I suspect that probably won't be a major
I
issue.
don't think so either.
I think he sounds excited to be doing it. I think he's looking forward to it, and I'm not sure that money is gonna be the issue.
No, I don't think so.
Who do they select?
Tony Schiavi.
Tony
Shire.
Schiavi,
Schiavi.
yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
At least
I mean, I know of him, but I
He's a brother.
Is he? I'm not surprised.
Over in Dennis.
Okay,
Haven't seen him since he joined.
well, you're gonna see a lot of him, I think.
All right.
I think we'd like to talk to him too, because
Yeah.
he's been the town administrator in Bourne, he was the town administrator in Ashland, and he's got a resume that'll knock your socks off. Incredible list of,
All about leadership.
all about a lot of things, but just creating an environment that works, and I think that most of all is what we need, but that's a different discussion. But I think he would be a good person to at least ask
Yep.
if he had any thoughts for us.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
for all the research you've done and tracking these people down, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Good
Awesome.
job.
How do you spell that GROUX one more time? GROUX. how do you-
Someone gonna do it?
G-R-O-U-X.
Look, get ahold of Tony, I can if you want me to, or Linda can.
I'm waiting for
I've
this,
met him.
I'm waiting for this
White.
one.
I've met him
Right.
once, I had a nice conversation
Yeah,
with
it's
him.
and the hyphen there, the blue hyphen.
Right.
Okay, Sandy, you wanna,
I can reach out and see if I can.
he's got any bright ideas of
Yeah.
people we can talk to?
Say, I've met him one time, he states that he's very good about getting back to people, so we'll test
And
that theory.
we'll test that theory. All right,
That's once he's getting paid.
I'm not sure it matters so much, honestly, I'm not sure it matters.
all right. Anything else on that? All right, and we are back to current Harwich Charter and a continued discussion on charter compliance. Sandy, thank you very much for
Yeah, that was
coming up
interesting
with some,
to see those.
you know, our charter enforcement that we tried to do back in
2016,
2016, wasn't it?
Mhm.
the days that will live in infamy.
And then we had Bourne. Bourne has a bylaw committee, and Provincetown.
Warren has also a charter commission. one has a charter committee, one has a charter commission.
Well, Bourne has a charter compliance committee,
Right.
and Bourne also has a bylaw committee.
Two separate,
Two separate.
yeah, which I think is a great idea.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
And Provincetown does not have a bylaw charter review committee, but they do have a
Charter
compliance with the Charter Compliance Commission. So you had a chance to, you had these, take a look at it.
Question, how bad of a defeat was it in 2016?
Well, it hurt my pride. That's bad.
Yeah, But I mean,
How bad of a well, it was kind of a
number-wise.
strange circumstance, and I think if things had timed a little differently that night, we would have had a better shot, but I was not expecting it to come up the first night, and nor was anybody else who was supporting the article. And it turned out to be the last article, and I don't think anybody really had the patience to deal with it. And I had a couple of people that were very good at slapping me around that night. Yup.
Me.
And Dana. I think, for my own part, I think it was a defeat, but it was a learning time. And one thing I did learn is we do not want to use the word enforcement. It scares the hell out of people. So the compliance, I think, is definitely a gentler intro. And there were a lot of discussions about the fact that it would, wind up costing money if we had to enforce it and go to court and all of that, which isn't really what, I took that article from the Provincetown model originally. So it wasn't really my thought that it would ever get to that stage where you'd have to, take the town to court, because that's exactly what you want to avoid. So my thought at this point is that somewhere between that and, I think it's the Bourne, there's probably a happy medium to be struck. I keep thinking that the first line of defense, if there's a question about what the charter means, should go to a charter compliance arbitration, and work it out that way. I also think it should be independent and elected. And I think one of these states that if you're serving on an elected charter compliance commission, you don't sit on any other committee. So you have, so it's built in to not have a conflict. So, as I say, I think a hybrid of what was that, and I think I was interested to see at the end of Provincetown's charter, and I don't think I printed it out, but there's a more recent section that seemed to moderate quite a bit what they had for a compliance. Almost to the point of being completely ineffective. So as I say, I think there's a middle ground to be found here.
I think so too, because the Charter Compliance Commission in the Provincetown Charter says the Charter Enforcement Commission has been renamed Charter Compliance Commission, and its responsibility has been modified to focus on education to encourage compliance. And that, I do think that watered it down.
I think it just drove a stake through its heart, but I think there needs to be a little bit of muscle on a committee like that to be able to, education, what are you going to do? Do like the Voter Information Commission, once a year you send out a few leaflets and say, please obey the charter? I think it's more to the point of being there to arbitrate if there's a question.
Have there been cases involving this issue
There
here?
have been a lot of cases where the various boards and committees, and most specifically certain select boards, have way overstepped or interpreted the charter in a way that it wasn't intended to be. And we have absolutely no
No, I understand
place
we
for a
have none,
citizen to go.
But what, for example, can you give a case, sort of an example of what?
Right this minute, off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
well, no, I'm not.
There have been any number of times that the select board has gone to town council because they either alleged that they didn't understand the language, or that that's not what it meant at all, when it was what it meant. And part of what I'd like to see happen is those places where that happened, is to button those things up so there can be less room for shenanigans. So, yeah, there have been many times, I think I have a list at home that I submitted to the select board right after that article went down, outlining the places where there was a problem with how people were operating the charter. So,
It would be good for you to dig that up and so we
Try
could
and find
have
it.
it, see if we can find it.
yeah,
Um,
I'm sure I have it, I keep everything.
To get into what we would look at for a charter commission, do we want, and I know we don't want to use the enforcement word, but that's in effect what we're looking at, or are we not? Because I agree with Sandy, you do not want this to be an appointed board by the select board.
No.
No, that's not gonna work. I also didn't like the province town, where if there was an interpretation, it then went to the town manager or town administrator, who would then deal with it.
They may be,
Yeah.
No, it's gotta be
focus.
separate. So I think that, that's basically like, telling the cat to
Letting
watch the canary.
Fox into the henhouse,
Yeah.
I think there's three things I'm thinking of in relation to this. One is, are we dealing with confusion because of the way the charter is written? Because that brings up one solution. Are we dealing with new select persons who are new and don't understand the charter, haven't read it perhaps? Or are we dealing with the individuals that don't care about the charter? Because all three would have different types of solutions
Well,
and different kinds of, and I'll use the quote-unquote enforcement issues. And so, and again, this is where the problem becomes of the past versus locking that in a box and moving forward. I don't think that, some type of commission needs to be there in order to help interpret. And it would help if we could get some kind of, how much have we spent going to lawyers to find out about interpretation, because that would help sell it if we do that, and if the town would go along with it. So we have some type of organization which we establish. But the real issue is enforcement.
So let's try there.
Okay.
So you had, I don't understand, I'm new and I haven't read the charter, and I don't give a rat's hindquarters.
Right.
I'm gonna push whatever I want, I'm gonna be a bully about it.
Right.
So,
And that would have a star next to it.
Well, I
True.
think it's all of the above.
I think
This is
I think
kind of
it's
why-
all, but I'm starting with, so somebody makes a complaint. So-and-so is not following charter section 1, 2, 3, paragraph 6. The review, would you envision that this charter commission would then get that complaint or that issue, that topic brought up, and determine that, is there, you just haven't read the charter, so you don't know what it means, so there's an education component. Would the outcome be the confusion of, well, this is what it's supposed to mean, here it is, which is the explanation to clarify the confusion, and somebody who is not planning on following anything, there may have to be some level of more steps. Do you kind of see that the commission would get an issue and then have to talk about it, bring the person in? If it was egregious, then the person might have to be summoned. I don't know how to do that at this point, so I'm just talking global here. Would have to be summoned, and it would almost be quasi-judicial. It seems like it's kind of wrapping all of those into it. I'm interested in, once we get a consultant.
Yep.
To find out whether or not we can find somebody. I have no idea, but I think that'd be an interesting piece. I mean, it's one of those, geez, John, you keep doing this wrong, we've talked to you 22 times, here's a fine.
Mhm.
Enough
Restate.
already. At what point is there going to be some teeth in it? I wouldn't personally fine somebody for the first time, but it's the,
Or the steps in terms of what the offense is.
yeah,
Right,
or what the
okay,
offense is or whatever, so, but is there a point, what does enforcement mean to this group?
Well, I personally think that enforcement means compliance. Is
Yes.
getting people in a room and saying, this is what you need to do to stay within the square borders of the charter. And hopefully they pay attention, and it also, I think, would raise public awareness about what's supposed to be happening maybe versus what is happening. And I think it wouldn't be, you know, I think sometimes just being able to officially call a person out for misbehaving is sufficient. I think that, you know, in a town like this, I don't see getting into, you know, as they say, a courtroom, but I suppose you maybe would want to have that option. I'm not sure about that. But as I say, just,
And
Well, this is why I asked the question of what are some examples of, to respond to Lou's point here. I think that's a critical thing he's raised, but without knowing, we're just talking in vagaries here.
well, it's not about vagaries, Paul, but I think the
Well, I mean,
idea of
it's a
getting,
vagary to me.
okay, case in point.
Yeah.
We have a bylaw, a charter provision that says that any new hires in the town cannot go forward without a vote of town meeting. Now, that's what the article says.
Any new
The
hires
original-
can do what?
Have to be voted on at
The
town meeting. Now, back when we wrote the charter, it was understood that that meant that it would be in an article in front of town meeting. And that's the way it was handled for many, many years. Understood that you would have the town meeting approve the fact that you want to hire 2 new people for the front office or 4 policemen.
New positions.
New
in
New
essence.
positions.
New positions.
Not filling
Not the
in.
people themselves, they're not been hired yet.
Basically,
We're
it
not,
had to do with new positions that were gonna cost the town additional money.
okay.
Well, what's happened in the last number of years is that the select board chose to decide that that didn't mean that it needed to be in an article at all. And now it appears in the budget under enhancement of services,
If that.
if that. And so the town meeting votes on the budget, having no idea those 4 new positions are in there. And the whole point of having them was in an article is so that the town meeting can say, yes, we want those positions enough to pay for them. And that's, so
Interesting.
that's, and the interpretation they got from their lawyer was, oh yeah, it doesn't need to be in an article. Well, it doesn't say it needs to be in an article. So one of the things I hope we can do is say it.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, or in any frame of reference, if something like that happens again with another portion of the charter, you've got people who can say, no, this is really what it meant.
But in that particular case, not to get carried away with this item, but just a response, is that are they of the opinion that it is being acted upon by town meeting because it's in the budget, right?
Yes.
And so,
Which technically is not
and
necessarily.
the charter doesn't require it to be a printed an article.
It doesn't say it.
Doesn't
Well,
say.
But
then-
that was the original intent, and for years,
Right.
people acted on it that way. We
Yeah.
have issues with the capital outlay. That's questions of interpretation about how that's supposed to be operated. And it's been all over the place.
Yeah, it's a terrible committee. I mean, it should be a strong committee,
Well,
and
it's
it's
not about
very window dressing.
But you know what?
It's not about the committee.
But part of it is, if the charter says, the charter does not say in the new employees that it has to be a separate article. So we would have to decide if we are going to put that forth as a charter change to the community.
Yeah,
And either they'll like it or they won't. So,
but my point on that is that the language doesn't require it to be an article. I can understand what you're
But do we
saying.
want to change that? So I personally don't have a problem with it being interpreted as being in the budget, because the charter does not say It has to be a
Right.
separate
So that's
article.
not a compliance issue really, in my mind.
No, it's not.
And it would only be a compliance issue if it required it to be in writing as a separate article.
So part of that, I mean, that example will be whether or not we want to propose that change.
Right.
There are other areas where are not being followed, which I'd like to have a conversation, is there some of it that should include bylaws as well? Because
Yes.
bylaws, the town meeting warrant, bylaw chapter 271-1, articles are supposed to be in full written format upon submission at that early February date. What have we had for the past few years? Placeholders. And the community sees actual written language, 3 days before the warrant is gonna be closed, and then it's printed in the warrant book. Nobody has any idea what it is. So, are there places where we would want to have administrative stuff in the bylaws included? Is it specific to the charter? Because nobody's watching that one.
So you might want to include the general bylaws, certainly not zoning.
Oh, not zoning, God forbid zoning. But do you want to include, and that's a question, the general bylaws?
In the charter.
Not in the charter, but
No, you don't want your
Charter.
bylaws in the charter
No, but to be included.
as part of the responsibility
Right.
of the committee.
yeah, so it becomes the charter bylaw
Right.
commission, or whatever, something,
Compliance.
compliance commission. That's another piece of this, because there are places in the bylaws that all I have to do is look at them, and I know darn well they're not being followed. But there's no compliance effort on that either, so there's another piece of this.
How big is the bylaw? Well, I'm gonna call it that. Is
Big.
it,
It's
is it-
big.
How many, any guesstimate on
Too
pages?
many.
Well, I'm not sure I
$100?
wouldn't agree, wouldn't suggest that you actually do something like print the thing, because it's huge.
Yeah.
But I would
I'm just-
probably,
Yeah.
I'd probably tell
I
you
just,
to.
my own education, I don't know how many bylaws we have.
Well, you need to go on the website and do a little clicking
Yeah.
around and come to the bylaws, because there are many. And actually, there are bylaws there's one particular instance of 2 different bylaws on exactly the same subject that are in pure contradiction to each other.
Pure contradiction.
You're talking about a compendium of all the town bylaws?
Yeah, it's
Like the zoning
No,
bylaw?
not zoning,
wouldn't be zoning,
just general bylaws.
Okay,
because the
Yeah.
bylaws are in 2 pieces. There's the administrative general bylaws,
I
and then there's all the
understand,
zoning bylaws.
Yeah, and that's just,
God forbid.
God forbid, you don't want to, I have to.
But there's a sound, there's one for signs, there's one.
Right, that's what's all, yeah, the signs are probably in the zoning bylaws. I don't remember if
No,
it's
I
in
don't
the
think-
general
I
or
think
not.
they're in the general
The
bylaws.
general?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think signage
I was
is.
just
But-
curious, 'cause
But I would say, go on the town website and go under, when you look at
so. Codes and
the
reports.
codes and reports, there's the code, which is the bylaws, and then there's the charter. The charter is 26 pages, the code, and you can get out a printout, you can print out the topics that are there, and just start flipping through them.
Well, it's more than 26 pages.
Oh, yeah.
This year is probably probably 200.
Well, that's my point, I'm having enough trouble reading over the charter.
26.
Well, we don't
I'm
have-
not about to read
No,
bylaws now.
I'm just saying, I'm bringing up the topic
Yeah.
of, would you want this commission, this compliance, to include bylaw
It's easy to
compliance?
just say that, lump it in there. Yes,
Because I gave you the example of, they're supposed to be in full written format. That has long been the practice, that when you put in an article on that early February date, it's supposed to have what it is, all said and done. It's not supposed to be when I get around to it.
Mhm.
So,
Capital outlay is another issue, because there've been all kinds of dances around how that's supposed to be operated. Won't get into detail, because that's not, But the other thing I would say though about the bylaws is while we are doing what we're doing and making the suggestions we are making, we need to be mindful of how they affect the bylaws. And where there are bylaws that might need to be changed in consideration of, you know, a new section or a new way of writing something in this
The
charter.
assumption is our commission has the latitude to get into recommending changes to the bylaws.
I think that comes after, if it is adopted, then the problem of correcting or amending bylaws becomes somebody else's problem. Or it might be the problem of the bylaw charter review, arbitration, compliance commission.
Or something.
Well, I just think we need, I mean, that's an issue, I'm not even sure what the scope of the Charter Commission is in terms of its breadth of opportunity here, but
I think it's wide
does
open.
it grant us the ability to recommend changes to the bylaws?
Well, I think we're saying recommend changes to the bylaws. I think our scope is changes to the charter
I
as
understand,
recommendation.
but
However, one of the proposed changes we could make is a compliance group that includes not just the charter, but also the general bylaws. That is a recommendation we're making. We're not saying bylaw 271.67 should be this.
I don't think
Yeah.
it would be the worst thing to be aware of what impact it might be on various bylaws, and I don't think it would be overstepping to suggest changes to the bylaws coming from this commission, instead of making people try to figure out what we did and how it impacts something else.
But I
we
don't
should be
want
looking-
somebody in the Attorney General's office or something to say, well, wait a minute here, that's beyond your authority.
Well, and that's why we got that letter that we talked about prior to this.
We could choose
which
to
is-
incorporate some of our bylaws in the charter if we wanted
Sure.
to.
We could move bylaws into the charter. But if we start having those kind of questions, I am certainly happy to call Carolyn Chris Clutchman, Director, Division of Livable Communities, who's the one who put out this letter, and actually have that conversation and say,
It might
if we
be.
do such and thus, are you going to get excited about that? Is that within our purview or not? So I'm not gonna,
No.
I don't wanna spend a
only
lot of time about
Yeah,
what's our purview.
and we're talking structure.
Yeah, this is,
It's
we're
a
talking
structure.
structure.
Right.
But I think the question, I think tonight is, as a general statement, is this something we would like to spend more time on?
Yes.
Which is the charter, which is the compliance issue.
Yeah.
So
Linda,
how, yes,
I want
sir.
to go back to something if we can. I'd like us to keep an open mind on
Oh, cool.
the commission and who would be on it. Just 5 elected people may not be the correct course of action. We may want to also think about, at least, why not have the chair of the finance committee, who is, we need to think, that's all, pros and cons, who is elected, who has to understand certain elements. Why not have the town administrator, Love Shavi, town administrator, sit on it along with 3 elected individuals, specific, because the knowledge base that an administrator will have is critical. That doesn't mean anybody has to agree with it, but it's critical in that knowledge base. They deal with the articles every day, and it would give I think, the commission a lot more credibility.
That's
So
an interesting
it's
thing.
just something to think about.
Who would be, the membership of the group? I think we're
Right.
agreed that it's an elected group.
Right.
Primarily. I'm
Well,
not-
I have a question on that.
I-
We're talking about electing in the town, we're talking about electing in the town annual
Election.
election, individuals that are running to be on this commission, the compliance commission.
Mhm.
And their purpose is to interpret and rule on questions that come up relative to the enforcement of the charter, right?
Yep.
So what kind of person's gonna run for this position?
Well, we have, I mean, you
But
could go
Paul,
right
think
back
in
to,
terms, excuse me,
go ahead.
Paul, think in terms of the historic commission. They're interpreting the rules of historic. These people are appointed, they don't run, but they have a fondness for that. I'm getting a tremendous fondness for this charter. And I think, well, it's gonna be, I mean, those people that are really working on it, it's gonna be hard to give it up after a year of this. So there's going to be people that will want to do that. Unfortunately, they'll be very detail-oriented people,
Mhm.
because that's what it's gonna take. But people will run.
And I-
There's always people that'll run for stuff like that.
And we do not have in any elected position in town requirements of education, background, et cetera. Anybody,
My point.
anybody can run for select board, anybody can run for this, anybody can run
That's right.
for that. I mean, we joke at the library that as long as you know how to read, you can be a library trustee.
Who says you have to read?
We do,
Well,
It's in their bylaws.
it's in the bylaws,
you have to be able to read.
yeah.
Somewhere.
Good luck with that.
We didn't say like
It's-
to read,
it's
we said be able to read.
Tom and Jane.
Dick and
reading.
Jane,
Dick
yes,
and Jane,
Dick,
forgive
Jane,
me.
and Spot, you're good. But anybody can run for anything. I mean, there are no requirements. I mean, throughout our country, there are no requirements. Whether you like that or not, that would be a huge charter change to say, there's going to be requirements on select board. You know, I can see it now. You had to be on 3 committees.
No.
I can't, but this is an interesting thing, the membership of it.
Yep.
Because things like the housing authority is some elected people
And governor.
and the governor.
I don't know of any elected, publicly elected role that has a requirement.
Right.
That's
It
what I'm
doesn't-
saying.
It doesn't go, appointed people, but elected people. The President of the United States doesn't have to have any requirement, other than meeting the citizen age, those requirements. But in terms of brain power or experience, there's nothing required of the
Even with-
President of the United States, let alone the Select Board and Howard.
And neither are any of the appointed positions. There aren't
Well,
any requirements.
that's not true.
Board of Health.
Board of Health has to have at least one person who's a medical person. The rest of them don't have to be medical. So that's 1 out of 5.
But generally, appointed positions you can attach certain considerations. Oh, I disagree with you entirely.
Well, we do not. Let us say, we do not in this town do that.
Yeah, but
Somebody has an interest
generally
in something.
speaking.
I don't think so.
Just getting back to Lou's
Okay.
suggestion, and I get it. However, here's the problem. You're asking 2 people to serve on this board who may in fact be the subject of this board.
Could be a problem.
It would be a huge problem. And as far as the town administrator is concerned, if you've got a good one, which hopefully we'll get this right, he's gonna be available to input and give us the benefit of his or her wisdom. So, and ditto the finance committee.
But it's all about the numbers. Even if it does involve them, they either recuse themselves, if they're directly involved, or
Why set yourself up for that?
well, it's just, the process for
also-
me is the process,
And keep in
thinking
mind,
through it.
the town administrator works for the select board. That's an automatic issue of the town
Basically a
administrator,
conflict.
person he or she who's holding that job wants to keep their job. So they're not really gonna go against the select board. I mean, let's be real
Well,
here.
then let's move away the positions and say, should we have 3 people that are elected and 2 people that are appointed?
By whom?
I don't know. I'm just thinking through saying,
What you said about the finance chairman being
Yep.
elected, you mean elected by the finance committee? The finance
no,
committee
no,
isn't
I'm sorry.
elected.
No, I know. I made a mistake there. The finance committee is not.
They're appointed by the moderator.
Yeah,
Right.
eventually.
But it's not directly through the moderator is what I was thinking, which is not a direct person through the administration or through the BOS. It's a separate person that they're responsible to, so, or that puts them in place. It's just, for me, it's a process that says, I can see all the negatives to having 5 people as far as what the town will think. They're gonna take over the selectmen's responsibilities. They're gonna oversee everything. There's gonna be a lot of objections. So how do we mitigate those objections
Well,
is what this is about.
This one model acts on complaints from citizens. So it's not, and that was one of the arguments was made back in
Right.
2016, is that this committee or commission would be running around looking for trouble.
Yep.
Well, that would not be the role, my thought, is that you act on complaints. You might never meet, because you've never gotten a complaint from anybody. Well, hooray. But
That's true, you would do on,
But you're not sitting there trying to, play the Gestapo all over town. That's
We-
not really the point.
I'd love to call them and just ask them, how many citizens have put in a complaint? I know it's in the structure, but I'm just thinking of our own town. Who would
Does
be?
it matter?
Yeah, it does, because I think we want to put something in place that is going to have a benefit and not just be words. I mean, it sounds great. Yes, we want citizens' complaint.
No, we don't,
Well-
actually.
yeah, we'd prefer not to have
We
complaints.
have any, but let's assume that there are. There's only a very small, limited amount of people that even pay attention. So,
But they really pay attention.
yeah, well, I understand, but again, we're doing this for the,
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we're having this wonderful discussion. We're not going to be making a decision on this tonight. I think there's a lot of food for thought in this.
Yep.
At some point, I'd like to take a stab at writing something in consideration of all this, to see what kind of a hybrid
I think it
we
takes,
could come up with, at least as a starting point.
A hybrid compliance.
Yeah,
I think that would be a
the
good
best
idea.
of both worlds, and throw in a
And
few
then- yeah.
aspirational things that we've talked about.
I don't disagree at all. I think it's a great idea.
I did look at the Bourne and the Provincetown and the Sandwich one too. I would like to do what you just said, compile them and take
Yeah.
the best of what I think is the best from each one
Yeah.
and give it to you and you could add to yours.
I'd be happy to take
Yeah.
any input and play with it, and
Because I did read them, but I didn't
not for
read them
next
in
week
depth.
necessarily, but for a discussion down
Yeah.
the road, because the kind of thing really requires, writing it, coming back to it a week later, looking at it again, okay, that's not good.
Yeah.
This is
Takes-
the
it takes some
cornerstone
time.
to everything we're doing. This is the most, I think,
Well,
it's
maybe.
the critical factor. You take this out and we're writing words.
No, well, I guess that's true, but there are still things that are being followed that need to be clarified. And
Correct.
We need to be so clear about what we're writing for this.
Oh, yes, which is why once it gets written, the consultant is gonna be very helpful. As you compile this stuff, is there general agreement that it should be elected, generally elected, and not appointed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a general agreement. Is there general agreement that we would include complaints about the bylaws?
I think so.
Is that I'm just trying to give, because if John and Sandy are gonna work on this, just give them some,
I have to work with that.
yes, you do, I'm sorry.
There you go. Never mind.
Life is tough.
What?
The compliance, charter compliance thing will be an arbiter for a bylaw violation? I
Well,
don't think that.
Never get too
No.
far. I'm not on board with that.
No.
Do we need a bylaw
Provision.
compliance commission? You know, because there are bylaw violations, and there's no way to do anything.
That's a good question, yeah.
If
But I
there,
think
if there are,
we need to express this thing. To just say there are bylaw violations, what bylaw, we need examples. We need to know how severe. And has there ever been a situation where the Charter Commission issue, as expressed, has been violated, and who has made that determination? And what has happened because of the violation? I mean, I
I'm
think
not-
we
I'm not
need to
sure.
know that.
Well,
If there's never been a situation,
Well, there have
There
been,
have
Paul,
been, Paul.
trust me, there have been many.
okay, well then how have they been resolved?
They haven't.
or they've been,
Well,
and that's been the problem.
The lawyer resolved them in ways that
the
often
town,
was.
they went to the town
they went to-
council.
They went and spent money on town council.
So, but they were resolved in that there was a legal opinion or an
Yeah.
interpretation
And
made.
more often than not, incorrect.
Well, that's your view on
It
it.
absolutely is.
Okay, back to our corners here.
Mhm.
Well,
We're gonna go
no,
back
I
to the
mean-
top. I get it, Paul,
Mhm.
but
Okay,
in
well,
terms of having watched, I know I've watched the town for a long time, and I've seen the stuff that has been issues,
yeah,
and I've seen what has come back, and we'll just point to the, I'm not sure how much faith I have in the lawyers, because when you get a letter from the attorneys, the town council, that starts talking about shall is advisory. When it says, select board shall do this, oh, that's just advisory. That's a problem,
And it's happened.
and it has happened time and again, that the charter says shall do something, oh, that's advisory, really? It's almost like we pass a meeting at town, article at town, town meeting, and all of a sudden it becomes, well, it's advisory. Well, I think the citizens just said, we want you to do this. Oh, that was advisory. I mean, yeah, there's been so many instances over the past many years where it just has made my teeth ache. So, yes, there is stuff out there.
okay. I'm not on board with
Okay.
including the bylaw provisions without some broader understanding of where our authority lines exist.
Well, this isn't under our authority that we're doing this, this would be under the
Well,
authority
maybe
of,
the consultant can provide that
under the
guidance.
authority of the charter. If
Right,
we
this would
chose
be
to
the
frame it
charter,
that way.
that if we chose to frame it and present it for a vote of the community, they will tell us whether or not they want the bylaw compliance included. They're the ones we're talking, gathering information, hopefully there's gonna be tons of information and comments. We're taking those, sifting through them and saying, this seems to have legs. This one right here. The town will then tell us, they don't like it, so it doesn't go anywhere.
But even for our purposes, what we're doing now is bubbling things up. Over the course of the next 12 months, there'll be so many proofs and tear-outs and puts-ins. This is just, is it a possibility? Should we consider having the bylaws? Well, the answer has to be yes, we have to consider it, because they're a critical part of our government structure. And there isn't a mechanism in place today to evaluate it, and to evaluate if it's being followed or not. So it's really up to us to think about that. It's not up to us to say, let's do it. That's the difference. But it's up to us to sift through all those ideas, at least that's my perspective of what we wanted to do.
Well, at some point, we have to come to a decision about whether
Right.
or not to do it.
Right, but right now, we can't come up with an idea and make a decision on the spot.
No.
I
No.
tend to,
Absolutely.
I tend to dream about things and think about them
Which
over
is
time.
why I really like John and Sandy, taking these, putting them together. That's why I'm trying to say, give them some guidance
Yes.
as to, so they're not floundering in the weeds, although I know you never flounder in the weeds. I know.
No, she just had them pulled.
You think
She
not?
just had a pull. But that's
Yeah.
why I'm saying, is there general agreement, elected,
Yes.
mostly elected?
Yes.
Is there general agreement of some enforcement or somehow something if it gets really egregious?
Ye-
I think just looking at this and saying, because I'm sure we would all like to say, and I'm sure we've all had employees, and you know all of the human resource things that you sit an employee down and you tell them they're not doing a very good job, and they say, oh, thank you for telling me, I'm so glad. Right, I've never had one of those in 50 years of supervising people. I've never had a person say, thank you for telling me I'm not doing a good job. Never. So there is going to be that level of how far are we willing to say, will there be some level of enforcement, or we're putting together a paper tiger with no teeth?
And we're gearing it to, right now, towards the charter only. Bylaws is a separate discussion, right?
You could
Yeah.
say, as you do your write-up, one of the things to consider,
Right.
in addition to this, is, open questions on the topic. Do you include bylaw compliance or not? Because that's still an open question. And I'm not a dog in that race at this point. But it is, and I think Lou is absolutely correct, our job here is to consider all the pieces and not just poo-poo something.
Well, and I think the bylaws are relevant when we are working in any particular segment of this charter to see how they work off of each other, because the charter is designed to be more general, not get into, crazy detail that you want to keep in the bylaws, because the charter is hard to change. Bylaws are much easier. At one point, one of the selectmen wanted to put the entire wastewater bylaw into the charter. That was an interesting discussion. I finally managed to talk him out of it, because, I said to him, you don't want to have to wait a year and a half to 2 years to change something in this new wastewater bylaw that you suddenly found out, oh my God, it doesn't work. So a lot of that detail is in the bylaws, but it's relevant. They work with each other.
Similar to the charter, should the charter have the number of people? There are some committees and commissions that are listed in the charter. Should the charter have, this committee will have 5 people on it and 2 alternates? Or should the charter say, look at bylaw, whatever it is, for the composition of this committee? And now the committee is this committee, and this is its charge, et cetera, et cetera. The bylaws then, because we have changed over time, we found that the committee is too big, it isn't big enough, we've changed the composition. Should it have alternates, should it not? There are all those questions. Should the charter say, we should have a committee on this? And the bylaw says, it'll have 12 people and 2 alternates. 13, whatever, 11, please, and 2 alternates. How should you do that? That's a charter change, because the bylaws are so easy to change. If all of a sudden you realize that 11 is just unwieldy for that committee, you want to go down to 7.
But that would require me to read the bylaws in a
You can just flip through the titles
Okay.
and
I'll look
see if there are ones that actually are of any interest, but look through the titles.
They're more fun in the charter.
Yeah, they're more fun.
I'm just curious how big the bylaws is. I'll find out.
Well, there are many, many sections, and not all sections of the bylaws are going to be relevant to what we're talking about. But there are those that will be, and I think they're worth looking at, because you might even pick a few
I'll
things
take
out
that.
that should be included in the charter, because they're too important to leave
In the
to make
bylaws.
easy.
So should in the charter, the requirements for being on the committees be part of our charter?
Requirements for being on the committees, as
Well,
in,
Right now, in order to get on a committee, you have to apply to the committee, to the BOS, 2 members on the committee. You have to write a resume.
For
And
some of the committees.
Right, and for historic you do,
Mhm.
and you have to go through an interview process, which I agree with, but what are they looking for? And why are some people rejected?
You are never going to be able to put into words a human doing what they do. You are not going to be able to ever get away from, I don't like that person, and they will never be on a committee. That you're not gonna be able to put that into words. I don't think.
I think that's getting way too in the weeds for that particular function.
Maybe.
You might want to think about, and this is another aspect, but you might want to think about it, as some of these towns have done, Eastham, you have a permanent search committee. It is not the board of selectmen.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
is chosen, I think one of them is chosen in part from, a couple from the finance committee, a couple from the, various committees and what have you, to be the permanent search committee for town, which hopefully takes it a little out of the political, that selectman over there really hates me and I'm gonna get fired because he really hates me kind of mode. A little bit more, I think, objective.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's it. We'll talk
That's
about,
interesting.
bring that back up when we talk about
Sure.
the whole committee and appointment process, because that's a whole different set of topics.
Well, I think we've beaten this one to death.
Yeah, all right, so you guys, Sandy and John, are going to draft some language, so we have a starting point.
Draft a rough compliance.
Oh, rough,
Yeah,
Yeah.
something to,
No more than 20 pages.
Do you think the other towns have what Bourne had and Provincetown had?
not all,
Not all.
not all.
Yeah.
Is it usually inside their charter?
It
Charter.
should be,
Yeah.
generally.
I mean, I like reading by it, I learn things there, but
I think we're also in agreement that whatever this charter compliance group does, it doesn't then get handed over to the town administrator for disposition. I think we're probably in general agreement with that one too. Just the things that we're kind of generally in agreement with as a starting
Let's
point.
this up and then
Pardon?
discuss it.
Huh?
I said, let them come up with a draft.
I think
Yeah.
we.
But
Oh,
I'm
she's
just
giving me
saying,
some ideas.
but these
Yep.
are kind of what we've been talking about to try to,
I
Well,
don't,
that's a good point, though. Who is the final arbiter of a complaint?
and that
in
is something you
some-
two
in
ought to talk about.
In some cases, it is the court. I mean, that's your final
Well,
power
that's the
that
final
you,
arbiter.
that you hope you never have to
Yeah.
use. But I think let's,
Yeah.
Well, I
work
think,
on this.
one of the things that would probably have to happen is the charter compliance group would have to have access to its own attorney, in the same way that the planning board has a planning attorney.
Yeah.
The ZBA board has a zoning person to help them get through the zoning stuff, that they're not, they're very specific people. In all kinds of union stuff and personnel stuff, we go to specific people in town, for the professional expertise. So part of this would probably be access to somebody who is absolutely could advise us, or this commission.
Right. Or the steps. At what point do you go to? What's the first step?
Yeah.
Okay?
can we move on?
We good?
We good?
Okay. I think, what else we got in here? I think I had put on, do we wanna have a conversation on additional elected positions? Because we are talking about the elected component here.
Are we ready for that tonight?
Well, we can start the conversation,
Well,
because right now we have the select board.
well,
we have the
probably should refer to
library.
That chart that you made up, X, Y, Z chart
Oh, yeah,
that's,
but do we wanna have more?
We have
Right.
library trustees, we have water department, we have, school committee, and we have, select board and moderator.
Moderator, that's
School
it.
committee, I think we have no jurisdiction over
Yeah, we
at
have
all.
no jurisdiction over the school committee, because right now it's a district, you're absolutely right.
Right,
So that one doesn't even, while it's there, it kinda doesn't even count.
and I don't think the moderator is something you need to fool with. But I think, as I think I said previously, going back over many years, and I realize I still need to go back further, but I see a definite correlation between the number of elected committees and the level of interest in our election. People come to vote for Joe next door because he's running for dog catcher and you wanna vote for him, you turn out for the election. And over the years, as we've had fewer and fewer elections, we get smaller and smaller percentages of people showing up. Partly, I'm sure that's a sign of the times, but I think that you might find that it would be helpful to have certain things be elected, not all of them, but, you know. What if we elected our finance committee?
And there
That
are 4 that do elect a finance committee. There are 6 that elect a planning board,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting, 4 that elect a board of health, 4 that elect a constable, and the town clerk is like 50-50. It's interesting, the town clerk is an interesting one. I guess in the Commonwealth of 351 communities, something like half of the town clerks are elected, half are appointed. Are there others that we would want to consider? You know, would having the finance committee elected versus appointed? And this is not a.
I think it's a thought, we need to think about it.
It's a thought to
Yep.
think about.
Yep.
This is not anything against the town moderator or any specific person, but
Well, at some point, I think it would be worthwhile to pick the towns, a couple that do it one way, a couple that do it the other way, and maybe take a look at how it's working in those towns. And you can do that through watching their videos of meetings and what have you. See whether it makes a significant difference how things operate. How many people run for the finance committee in whatever town you're looking at? Is it a problem? Nice thing we didn't have 35, 40 years ago was access to all of this wealth of information out there that we can just go find and sit and read and take a look at. So this is hugely helpful.
I like the idea of looking at more committees that are elected, because we always have the option that if, the negative is, when somebody drops out of the committee, you can't have another election, and it takes time to get another person. There's a mechanism where someone just appoints for a short term. So the more, the better in my mind. And only, I mean, finance committee is critical, and it's going to only attract people that are interested in finance, accountants and so forth. I absolutely love that idea. Same thing with the planning board. I mean, that's to make up our town.
The mechanism for replacing, if somebody resigns from this commission, the mechanism by law is that we appoint
Right.
the
we
replacement.
we vote to
Right.
appoint someone. You could put that in the charter.
Correct.
That if there were elected, because the select board has a very specific
Right.
state law, if it's X number of days before this and then, and that. So they've already got a whole, how they, there's
There's
a
a
vacant
process.
position, they've already got a process. But we could have in the charter,
The process
other
itself.
elected positions.
Yep.
How do you get someone to fill that position until the next election? You know, just fill out the role. That could be a charter change that we have
Yep.
in here. Because that's the library trustees, the water, and the moderator. If the moderator decides to, or the library trustees, if somebody decides to resign, there's no mechanism to appoint somebody to fill that spot.
Currently, in Harwich.
Yeah, no,
Until the next election.
until the next election. So the seat stays vacant.
Mhm.
So something about elected positions is, do we want to have in our charter a mechanism where the group
Yeah, I
gets
think we
to-
should, yeah.
There's
I
been
saw
some
that in one
language
of
in the charter about filling vacancies that occur in various committees.
On regular appointed committees.
Those are
but there's
appointed
nothing-
But
committees.
not elected.
Nothing unelected, except for the select board, which is run by state law. Yeah, there's appointed, because if somebody leaves a committee, you know,
Select board takes
the
care of it.
select board then appoints somebody to take that on for the rest of that term. So
Yeah.
they take care of the appointed positions. These are the elected ones.
Yeah.
And the water commission,
Great point, I hadn't thought of
Yeah, the water commissioners, they're pretty critical.
You think?
So to have the ability to
That's a,
appoint.
yeah.
I read that somewhere. in
Yep.
The charters and then what the Herb sent on, it's sort of the sandwich articles, and that if members drop off, the board can elect within themselves.
Yeah,
I think that's a real good idea.
I think that would be a great idea in terms of the elected, the positions that are elected, not other elected positions, but elected. I think that would be,
Yeah, that's definitely a keeper. I might.
And that's mainly to maintain the
The
right number to
quorum,
vote,
The
Right.
number of people you need, yeah.
so you don't
because
have a tie.
If you've
or-
got a 7-person vote and one person is no longer filling that seat,
Right.
and you've got a 3-3 vote,
Right.
the vote fails every time.
it also
So-
causes problems with quorums,
Yes, it does.
because the quorum is calculated on the authorized number, not the people who are there. Vacancies don't knock it down. So that's another quorum issue.
I mean, the one exception in there is the town moderator who's not on a committee. If the town moderator dies, there's no mechanism there.
No, so
There
there
is-
should be, so yes,
It's not even like the
And
thing
some-
can't keep, and even the issue comes up when the moderator has to step down at town meeting. Except now he's appointing an interim.
and he has the authority
But-
to do that.
I think there is
Yeah,
some,
no, I
there's
understand.
I think there is some statutory language
Yes,
about
there is.
what happens absent your moderator.
Yeah,
And I think it goes to
I read
the
it
town
somewhere.
clerk to moderate. It goes to,
Goes to, yes,
It
I
goes
think there's
to-
some statutory language.
I can't remember exactly who, but somebody who's already up there is by law steps into the role. However, there are some towns that elect their moderator at the beginning of every town meeting, and the town meeting elects the moderator.
Yeah, that's what Sandwich does.
That's
Yeah.
what Sandwich does.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of interesting.
Sounds like a free-for-all, but, okay.
Well, it depends what the town moderator does. If it's to run town meeting,
Right.
that's one aspect. If it's to appoint members to the finance committee, that's another aspect. So,
And we do,
The
and
sandwich
we,
does that.
Yep.
and we do in our charter has the moderator appointing the finance committee.
right.
But that's actually interesting. What is the statutory thing on vacancies?
I think there's something in Mass General Law.
I think there's
about
something in
that.
Mass General Law too, but I can't think of it. I'll look that one up.
At what point
Yes,
does
I'm
an
curious.
elected board get paid and not paid?
Up to
Up
town
to the
meeting.
town meeting,
Town meeting?
up to town meeting to pass a budget.
There's that article at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
salaries of elected
Oh, yeah.
positions, so if the town meeting saw fit to pay the water commissioner, well, they already have.
Mhm.
I think all the elected boards have a stipend at this point.
Like when our board was elected, I know we weren't gonna get paid, but I didn't see it written anywhere that we
You,
were.
this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that would be town.
Oh, you're not getting paid?
Well, I think,
Whoosh.
I think as a practical matter, we probably could vote to pay ourselves, because we have control over our budget, but.
I'm
Why?
not looking to get paid, but I
Boy,
didn't
Well,
see
boy,
it.
I wouldn't want to open that one.
No, not a
We're
good
not opening
idea.
that one.
I didn't see it written anywhere that we weren't though.
I think the law, the Mass General laws, at least allows us to be compensated for our expenses and mileage,
Mhm.
but I'd have to go back and,
Yeah, I'm not,
See,
again,
it's
not
in
looking
here
for it,
somewhere.
but I didn't see it.
Compensation, it's just
Because I knew other
something-
elected officials in town, they're all paid for something, right?
I think select board, library, water commissioners, moderator. The schools are not. They do not get a stipend.
Right.
That was always a sticky point with them.
But that would be a thing to consider as far as payment
But,
of,
but I
unless we
think that,
spell it out, no pay.
but I think that it's really up to the town if they wanna pay somebody. So I think that, you know, cause the select board, they upped their stipend because I think we got $1,500 a year when I was on the board, or was it
that was
1,200?
1,500.
1,500.
That's how we started out in '87.
Buck and a, you know, $1.25
And I
a
think we
month
were all-
after taxes, it was 97 and something cents.
Yeah.
Yeehaw!
But if we make recommendations to increase the elected boards, 5 new boards, we have to put a number to attach.
Maybe, or maybe
No,
not.
Not at all.
No, that would be up to the budget
That's
process.
up to the selectmen to propose it, or town meeting, or a citizen's petition, or whatever, but that would be.
Why would someone vote for an elected board without knowing if they'd have to pay for it?
Well, here we are.
Anyway, this is just,
Yeah.
it's a nebulous
Interesting.
subject, I think.
Go ahead.
I want to rethink the finance committee in terms of the negatives and positives of having elected versus appointed. I know we all, at least I jumped on, gee, let's get it elected, but I'm trying to think, are we fixing a problem that isn't broken?
No, I don't think anybody jumped on it.
I
didn't
did.
jump. I
I
didn't
did.
jump on it.
I jumped.
I think it's worth
I'll
talking
take the
about.
blame.
No, it's worth
Uh,
talking about.
Well, we were blaming you.
I know, so that's why I took it. It's working, it has worked. And it's
Oh,
worked
it
because in a lot of ways, members are found by other members
That's-
within that committee, and many,
Yeah.
many.
I was always down members, always.
Always.
Yeah, but election is
And I
a
tried
That's
that.
part of it, that was part of it.
Moderator's required to meet
Right.
and interview candidates.
Yeah,
The
well, that's gonna
moderator-
happen.
The
No,
moderator.
No, he does happen. He does, he does.
Oh, it does. He's,
Yeah.
he's holding a
Eventually.
meeting.
He's obligated to
Eventually
advertise.
is the right word.
He's also obligated to advertise, and he's also obligated to attend 3 meetings a year of the
4.
finance
I think
committee,
it's
4.
4.
And I'm guaranteeing you that
That's
doesn't
not
happen.
happening either. So when you're looking for why should there be a compliance commission, we just came up with a whole bunch more.
But he did, Mr. Ford did advertise, I saw it in the Chronicle
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago.
This is
Oh,
the first time I've ever
I
seen
think, I
it.
was shocked, sorry, I think it's a good
So how many
idea.
members do you need?
Pardon?
How many members are you down, 2?
I think at least 2,
I think they're down to.
yeah. And it was, I was always down, and then when members didn't show up, it was clearly in the charter what to do, and it wasn't done.
So, yeah, so there's a whole bunch of things
Yeah.
that are, yes, there's compliance issues. So, elected versus appointed on stuff, I'm neither here, personally, I'm neither here nor there. Do we need more elected positions? Do we need less elected? Personally, I'm on a, I'm not sure,
He doesn't care.
I don't care.
Neither do I really.
To
Because
me,
I'm
it's
not-
just a potential problem for the final approval of the charter.
What do you mean?
If we don't really care one way or the other, then why even enter that field and run the risk that people envision the charter that's being offered is there's too much in it, there's too much going on here. I don't understand it, or whatever they want to use as an argument. People like to vote no rather than yes on something, and it's easier to vote no. So, I think the more opportunities we make for people to vote no, it's unwarranted.
Well, it's,
And I think that's, to get into, let's start electing people again. We went through that back when I was a kid. We elected everybody in the town. Today, we don't elect, but it's taken 80 years for that to happen. I think the thought of going back to that is kind of over. And people have bought into a less elected body of town officials. And I fear that if we're not gung-ho, 9-0 for some of this stuff, I think it just is raising issues that could become hurdles for the final success of the entire document, so.
I don't think we need to have every vote be 9-0.
I don't
No,
I
but
think
I
that
think you
once-
need I
once
think
the-
you need a majority.
Yeah, you do.
can't start the conversation by, I don't really care one way or the other about this. That's not gonna get anything
Well, some of us do care,
It's-
and I would
I'm just saying
submit
that,
that it's a worthy discussion.
yeah,
And maybe we want to at some point put out a survey monkey, to the town to say, would you be in favor of, to get some input, or at one of our hearings, we're talking about more elected officials, that's what the hearings are for. Is to get
Let's see
input
if
from
it
the
comes
voters.
up, but let's not us generate.
I mean, you have a lot of people in this town who would like to go back to 3 full-time select. And I know they're out there because I hear it all the time. They hate this structure. But it's impractical.
yes, because I'm not sure I'd want to layer $1 million onto the budget to affect that.
To me,
Well, I
it's something
think the
that
more
if it's
bigger problem-
generated from the public, we'll entertain it, but,
Well, I think we have to
But
ask
it's
the
not.
public, they're not gonna come knocking at our door.
well, that's what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
We're having public hearings for that kind of comment.
We've
And-
had one public hearing, we're not having a bunch of public hearings. We've asked the community, they have our email address, and they will either make a comment or not. And I think a lot of people will just sidle up to somebody and say, are y'all thinking about such and thus?
Well, we could put
Okay.
a survey up
Surveys, that's not a good
on
idea.
a social media platform and say, you know, here's the survey monkey. Do you favor more elected officials? Do you not favor more elected officials? And if so, which ones would you like to see elected?
Yeah, that's a pretty simple survey.
Right.
You know,
When
it's not,
when I say I don't care about whether or not we elect more people or not, it's because I don't have a burning desire to have more people on the ballot.
I think
However,
that's-
if it makes sense, I will support it.
Okay.
But if we can't actually talk about stuff, then,
you know, well, we have
So
all
Linda,
the exercises.
as a
we-
process,
yes.
can we say that once we have a rough draft of what we actually put together, that then we will have a discussion on what we think we can get through with the citizens, what the citizens will accept, and what they won't, or else we're gonna be flapping around all
I
the
think
time.
part of that will come from, at some point, probably in the late fall, we should have another public hearing. And we should start the public hearing with, these are the things we've been talking about. This is what we've heard so
Perfect.
far. These are directions that we're contemplating. What do you think?
Right.
And then the feedback comes back and says, I think everybody should be elected, even the dog catcher. Okay.
Do we have
Maybe
one?
you should- no, yeah.
Yeah.
We do. We have an
Well,
animal
the
control.
animal control
Animal control officer.
Oh, that's right.
We don't call them
Sorry.
dog catchers anymore.
I know.
Okay, that's why I was
Oh, and
lost.
by the way, just in case anybody's wondering, the Mass General laws tell us that we shall serve without compensation, but may be reimbursed for our expenses. So if you're thinking about putting a
The car?
payroll slip
The
in.
car?
No,
No.
but
Because
it's,
when we go to town meeting, it's an, up to Paul's point, it's an all or nothing,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Town meeting, we don't go to town
you
meeting.
don't go to town
Well,
meeting.
town
Well-
election,
Goes to the election,
Yeah.
goes
It's
to
all-
the ballot.
but
it's
it's
an
all or nothing.
Correct.
Secret ballot even,
Yeah.
so people don't have to acknowledge how they're voting as they
Okay.
do at town meeting. This is in the ballot box,
Okay, that's.
and no is tough to beat.
And easy to say.
But yeah, so it doesn't go to town meeting, in the same way that this commission went to the ballot, it did not go to town
Right.
meeting, it went to the
Okay.
ballot, and the election was the ballot,
Yeah, okay.
so,
That's an important, Paul's point, that's an important point.
Mhm.
They may object to one item and then say no.
and that may be
And
true.
boom, the whole thing will.
But I also think that if we're only going to worry about getting something passed,
We're gonna get nothing done.
we're gonna get nothing done. Because there's always going to be the protest nickel people who are gonna be unhappy about something. This protest nickel group is gonna be unhappy about that. This protest nickel group is gonna be unhappy about that. There's always gonna be a protest nickel group.
Mhm.
Well, when we did the original charter, starting from the ground up, with half the town not really particularly in favor of it, because they felt that it was just a move to go to part-time selectmen, which for me it never was, because I had always felt that it was 6 of one, half dozen of the other in a lot of ways. But we took a lot of risks, We did a lot of things differently, and we went to the ballot, and it passed. So there's a degree of risk in whatever you're going to do, and you never know what is going to get people's hair on fire, ever. So
There's,
we need to do what we think
Yeah.
is in the best interest of the town to do, and hopefully be able to convince them at the end of the day that that's what they're being presented with.
I think that's an excellent point, Sandy. Our objective is to propose things that are in the best interest of the town. And sometimes the best interests are, people aren't too happy about, but it is in their best interest. That's the objective here.
And if we do our job, we can convince them, because that is part of our job.
Yes, there's an educational component to this, that we're not just gonna put this report together, stick it on a ballot, because we have to mail it to everybody, there's rules in here that you have to send it to everybody and all this. But, yeah, there's gonna have to be some educational seminars that say, come and talk, just like the select board have office hours. There's
Well, we
gonna
need-
be a point where we're gonna have office hours, come and talk to me about the charter that we're proposing.
And we'll need to go to the town political committees, and the
Yeah.
women's breakfast, and the men's breakfast, and, Channel 8, and, do a couple
Yeah.
of sessions that way. This is a lot of work.
Which is why we're meeting every week, Paul.
And you'd miss us otherwise, right?
No, I
I
agree.
mean,
Herb, I haven't heard a word out of you. What are you thinking over there?
I'm listening a lot. Seeing as I'm not well versed in town politics,
Probably good thing.
Well, then we could
Clear
rely on you
mind.
for a more objective opinion.
oh, that's why I'm listening a lot.
Okay. Listening is
So are
good.
terms of the BOS part of the charter, or is that a bylaw issue?
Charter,
Can we write that down?
what?
What?
How long they serve? Length of
That's
time?
term limits.
Mm-hmm, a different subject.
That's a whole different subject. Because right now, the only group that has term limits is the finance committee. Which
And that,
I'm pretty
needs-
sure why.
well, there were valid reasons once upon a time.
Yes,
I think it might be time to rethink that.
I think so too.
But also, why 3 years? Why not 4 years with a 2-year after that? I mean,
Don't know.
That-
Term
that-
limits is gonna be a
what would
whole
be
The whole
different
thing?
What would,
Okay.
what would be the point?
point is, you hear every time that someone is elected, this is my first year, all I have to do is listen. And I don't, it takes me a year to learn. Okay, I'm gonna go along with that and I'm gonna fix it.
I'll never.
Now you got that year to learn, now you have 3 years to actually go ahead and work, and then you can go ahead and get elected for another term of 2 years, as an idea.
I
But
think
that'll
that-
be a whole different discussion, which is term limits. Who should have them? Should it be elected and/or appointed? That's a whole other
I'll
thing.
wait, it's on my to-do list.
Yeah,
All right.
that also is risky.
It is risky.
It's risky. And I'm not even sure how I feel about it at this point.
Hey, well, think through it.
I have.
That was
I
fast.
have for pros and cons.
All right. I think we've beaten these things to death this evening. What would you do for, next? Should we talk about warrant? The warrant itself, what should be in it?
What's next in the charter? Is that what's next?
No, it's just something that,
What do you mean by in it?
well, for example, right now, the warrant doesn't have any information on where the money's coming from. Only
Oh,
that
oh,
it's
Sort of thing you would
should
wanna,
have the money, where it's coming
Where's it coming
from.
from, so we can
But
spend it out?
It should be there.
well, I think, to me, that is not one of the most urgent
What
part
would-
of things. I think I would rather start to talk about either financial aspects, i.e. finance committee, and the timelines for town meeting. And
That's
for that,
important, yeah.
I think it's critically important. And
Right.
for that, I think you
That's good.
might want to, we need to talk to the people that are involved in that most specifically. The finance committee, I think we should have our own discussion about what we wanna ask and what we wanna know about, but, of all the sections of our town, I think that's the one that has,
Start on a finance committee thing?
yeah,
Okay, sounds good.
The timeline
the timeline is a
it doesn't
disaster.
really start until like the middle of January,
Well, that's
first of
been-
February, and then
that's-
it closes 8 weeks later. I
That's
mean,
been monkeyed around with so much,
It
and,
should be starting now,
yeah,
is when it should be starting.
well, I
The
think,
departments have their budgets in by November,
November, December.
yeah.
well,
So,
I
it
think
does-
at least these guys are gonna try to do all that and make a better product and an earlier product, but I think we somehow need to codify some of these timelines better, but we can't know what's better without talking to the people
Oh,
who have their
definitely.
hands on it.
Yeah, I had my hand in it, it was horrible, it was horrible.
Right, so having a finance committee.
No, I think we should definitely bring it.
Okay,
Can we start off with, should we go to level funding before we go to the dates?
No,
that's
No.
not a charter issue.
that's not a charter.
That is not a charter issue.
Darn it.
The,
That is a funding issue, that's not charter.
The person, one person we
I'm
might
trying.
very seriously wanna talk to about timelines would be Tony,
Mhm.
because he's obviously worked with other towns and timelines, so he might have a really clear eye. But I talked to the finance committee and then, you know, we've got a lot of people to talk about and different components of all this, but
I'm going to suggest that if we're gonna start this for next week, this conversation, you all had your groups. Will you look at what the timeline is in each charter as to what other people are doing? You know, are they putting a budget together in the middle of January? Is it the middle of
Oh,
February?
you mean
What is
in
their-
Chatham, I have
Yeah,
Chatham.
yeah,
okay.
what's Chatham doing
Yeah.
for a timeline?
Yeah.
What are they doing for a timeline?
That's a good.
I think would be really helpful.
And that's just finance or?
Well, that's the budget.
this is the
It's the
process
whole
leading up to the,
process.
up to the budget,
It's-
The
yeah.
warrant,
It's
budget,
getting to town meeting and when does the budget have to be done?
Yeah.
When is it, you know, presented to the public, et cetera? Because the budget, I mean, all this stuff has to be done X number of days before
More.
town meeting, because you have to get the book printed and all the rest of that.
And this has been a real issue for a rather long
Oh.
time.
It's,
It's been a nightmare.
and every year they go, we're gonna work on it.
no, it's
Well,
not,
you
it's
got-
not worked on.
You got a different dynamic going on, I think, and
Mhm.
some different players, so maybe we'll get a different result.
And changing players.
Yes,
And you're always gonna have changing players. All right,
yeah, but I think it needs to be
Question.
codified so
Go
that the
ahead.
Yeah.
players change.
Question, is Anita, I saw her name on it, is she our select board?
we do
liaison?
not
don't
have a
have a
liaison.
liaison.
Well, you had Anita on your agenda tonight. I mean, I sent,
did?
I saw somebody's name with Anita. Or
think so.
something.
I don't have any
Yeah,
on the agenda.
it was something.
No.
Wrong memo.
We do not have a liaison, we
Yeah,
do
we
not.
do not have a liaison.
I was
We got
surprised, I wasn't, I liked her, I think she'd be a good, I said, who's logical?
Well, we don't need a liaison. We're not under the purview of the Board of Selectmen. When we want to liaise with them, we'll get together as a group. How's that?
Which I think would be a good idea, to ask sooner rather than later, a joint meeting with the select board and the school commission as to a conversation about that in public. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, what are they thinking they'd like to see and how things are, I mean, they do have a little stake in the game, you know.
I'd also, if we do have a joint meeting, I'd like us to all be sitting at the big table, not as supplicants in the little one.
Well, maybe we invite them as a board to our meeting.
That would be a good idea too, and see if they come.
Yeah.
They can sit in the
I
supplicant.
don't think most of them are going to care about that one way or another.
All right, we good?
Like
Okay,
MacArthur and Truman.
Yeah, I'll be
okay. It's 8:04. I have no
We
idea.
adjourn.
Motion to
there.
adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, so Paul made the motion, Sandy second. Discussion?
None.
Let's go home. All those in favor? We're
Aye.
done.
Aye.
Turn that off.
We don't have quantum here anymore, do we?
Yes.
It's over
Oh.
there.
That's